The shadows over Jerusalem began to lengthen. The ultimate hour approached. The dry desert air clung to every sun-baked stone. It hung thick and heavy, stretched tight with unspoken tension. Whispers tangled through the crowded alleyways, soft enough that no single word could be caught, sharp enough that every passerby felt their bite. One name kept resurfacing, half-spoken between market stalls. Whispers of betrayal curled through the cobblestones, winding their way toward the quiet upper room on the city's hill. In that still high room, Jesus gathered his closest friends for one final meal. Dust motes danced in the slanting golden light that slanted through the open window. The scent of roasted lamb and wild herbs clung to the still air, warm and familiar. No one spoke of what was coming, not yet. Jesus reached for the loaf of barley bread on the rough wooden table. He broke it into uneven rough pieces and passed them around the circle. He poured deep red wine into chipped clay cups, then held his own up to the fading light. He wasn't just performing an old ritual passed down from their ancestors. He was offering his very self, a testament of a love that would reach beyond the grave. "Do this in remembrance of me," he whispered. His voice stayed steady, even as the wind picked up outside, and the first rumble of a distant storm began to gather beyond the window. After the meal, they walked out through the city gates together. The air cooled as they descended into the valley. Moonlight silvered the dusty path, turning the olive leaves to pale coin under their feet. The path led from the warmth of the upper room into the cold, unbroken silence of the Garden of Gethsemane. Crushed olive leaves crunched under their boots, releasing a sharp, green scent into the still night. Under the twisted, gnarled branches of ancient olive trees, Jesus turned to his disciples. He told them to wait and watch, to pray that they would not fall into temptation when the trial came. He walked a stone's throw further from the group, away from the faint sound of their breathing, and knelt alone in the cracked, dry dirt. The weight settled on him then. Not the weight of the coming cross, not the weight of the coming pain, the weight of every broken choice, every torn life, every wound ever inflicted, every sorrow ever borne by every human being who would ever live. It pressed down on his chest until he could barely draw breath. His agony ran so deep that his sweat fell like thick drops of blood, soaking into the dry earth below. He curled his fingers into the dry grass, pulling at the brittle blades until they broke between his fingers. He pressed his forehead to the cool, packed ground, his shoulders shaking with the force of the weight he carried. No one stepped forward to share the burden. No one could. He faced the full weight of the world's brokenness alone. Even as the agony tore at him, his heart remained surrendered to the path ahead. "Not my will, but yours be done," he prayed into the dark, silent stillness. His voice was raw, but it did not break. When he lifted his forehead from the ground, the weight did not lift fully, but the quiet resolve did. He wiped the dirt from his hands with a brush of the grass, pushed upright with knees that ached from the long kneel, and walked slowly back toward the place where he had left the disciples. He found them curled on the soft ground under the olive trees, fast asleep. Exhaustion from the long day, the heavy meal, the unspoken dread had pulled them under before they could remember their promise to pray. He did not shout, he did not rebuke. He bent and shook each shoulder gently, waking them one by one. His voice was soft, but it held a sharp, clear warning. "Watch and pray that you do not enter into temptation," he told them. He had barely finished speaking when the silence of the garden shattered. A low, steady thud of iron-shod boots crashed through the trees, one after another, marching in lockstep toward the clearing. The sound rolled over the olive grove, shaking the leaves on their branches. Torches cut through the darkness further down the path, their orange light flickering between trunks, casting wild, jumping shadows that stretched and twisted across the ground. They led Jesus up the long, grueling climb to Golgotha, the place of the skull. When they reached the bare, rocky summit, they stretched his hands and feet out against the heavy wooden cross. The iron nails bit into the flesh, one after another, driven home with sharp hammer blows. They lifted the cross upright, slid its base into the cut-hole, dug into the rock, and dropped it into place with a heavy jolt that shot pain up from the nails through every nerve in his body. Jesus hung between two common thieves, the rough wood digging into his back under his weight. The crowd gathered below the hill, packed tight on the rocky slope. They spat toward the cross. They shook their heads and jeered. They called out taunts, their voices carrying sharp and clear up to the summit. "He saved others," they shouted. "Let him save himself if he is the Christ, the chosen of God. Come down from the cross now, and we will believe," they cried. The midday sun blazed hot over the hill. Then, without warning, the light began to fade. Not slow cloud cover, sudden, thick, unnatural darkness, rolling over the whole land until even the sun's bright glow was swallowed completely. The air turned cold, sharp enough to prickle the skin even in the desert heat. The crowd's jeers cut off mid-shout. A hush fell over the entire hill, so thick you could almost touch it. Not even the wind stirred. On the cross, in the heart of that suffocating, silent dark, Jesus lifted his head. His voice carried clear over the quiet hill, loud enough for every man and woman there to hear. "It is finished," he cried. The words were not a cry of defeat. They were a cry of triumph. He bowed his head, and he gave up his spirit. The ground shook hard beneath the feet of every man on the hill. The huge veil hanging in the temple tore in two, split clean from top to bottom, ripping open the way that had been closed for centuries. The soldiers broke the legs of the two thieves to speed their deaths. When they reached Jesus, they found he was already gone. One soldier drove his spear deep into Jesus' side, and blood and clear water flowed out immediately. Joseph of Arimathea, a man who had followed Jesus in secret for months, stepped forward to Pilate and asked for the body. Pilate granted his request without hesitation. Joseph wrapped the body in clean linen cloth, carried it to a new tomb cut straight into solid rock, and laid it gently on the stone shelf inside. He rolled a heavy, flat stone across the tomb entrance, sealed it with the official Roman mark, and posted armed guards to stand watch outside. No one could move the stone without breaking the seal. No one could reach the body. In that cold, quiet dark of the sealed tomb, the sacrifice was complete. The bridge between heaven and earth had been forever restored. What looked like a final victory for darkness was the beginning of a hope that would never die.